Tools and Means. Written and read by John Miro. Episode 5. Claire picked up the key card from where she dropped it on the floor and jammed it into the slot on the hotel room door. "Hurry up," Amy said. "It's getting heavy." The door beeped, turned green, and Claire swung it wide with her hip, turning to collect her bag from Amy. "Told you we packed too much." Amy rolled her eyes. "You're presenting twice? You're schmoozing every night, and you're meeting with the man who's going to save your life's work. You can't wear the same suit 4 days straight." Claire dropped her bag beside the first bed, then fell backwards on it herself. The trip from the airport had taken far longer than it should have, due to construction and traffic, and it felt even longer than that, with Angel, the driver, trying to pick Amy up the whole way. "Why not?" Claire asked, kicking off her shoes. "I mean, different shirts and understuff, sure, but why do I need to pack 3 whole different suits?" She put her hand over her eyes, predicting the mother-hen speech that was about to begin. "When you want a date, you dress up. When you want out of a parking ticket, you undo a button. When you want someone to publish your papers or, keep your research project from imploding, you dress for that, too." Claire ignored her grad student, and a moment later she heard her collapse on the bed by the window. "I should take fashion advice from a chick who wears jeans and rock band t-shirts to work every day?" "Hey," Amy responded, sounding hurt. Claire heard her lean over and unzip her suitcase with a grunt. She cracked an eye and saw the top fall open, and a sedate, dark gray suit jacket and long skirt fall out. "I can clean up when I have to." Claire quirked an eyebrow at the clothes in the suitcase and then at disheveled Amy. For the flight in, she'd chosen a Rammstein t-shirt, with lava bubbling through the stylized R and T. "Wow. Yeah, that's a nice suit," she giggled. "Shut up, boss." Amy grabbed a pillow and tossed it at her. "Why did you have to book the red eye anyway?" she grunted. Claire grabbed the pillow in midair and stuck it under her head. "Gotta stretch the budget," she yawned. "And now what do we do all day before the conference starts?" "Sleep," Claire suggested. Amy growled. "Can't. All hyped up from flying." Claire giggled. "Well, Angel gave you his card, didn't he? I seem to remember an offer of a personalized tour of Miami being offered to one of us." Amy whimpered. "He's your age." "What's with all the old age cracks, kid?" Claire asked through yet another yawn, but didn't bother opening her eyes again. The room was warm, like all Miami. Claire loved the heat. Her muscles were loose, her skin lightly damp from the humidity. She felt like the hunter she was going to have to be. She wouldn't leave anything to chance with Senator Newell. She'd done her research on him and his pet projects in the Illinois penal system. Hell, she'd even followed him on Facebook and looked him up elsewhere. She put her arms back behind her head and prepared to go over the speech again in her mind. "Ames, thank you for coming. And for clothes shopping." Amy snickered. "Gotta spend a little to make a little." Claire reddened, knowing exactly where Amy's mind was going. "I am not wearing that dress to a medical conference." Amy yawned, and her voice slurred despite the protests she wouldn't be able to sleep. "Not to the conference. Dinner, maybe?" Claire ignored her and went back to planning her speech. She would talk about the program only in terms of success. She could be a feather in Newell's cap if he made a good enough offer. It wasn't about keeping the program alive. It was just a good chance to expand her research to a new population, to beef up her findings. If Newell got the credit for reducing the number and severity of repeat offense in the great state of Illinois, well, that would be a feather in both their caps. "Doc?" Amy asked. "Huh?" "Thank you for making me a real part of... just thank you." "Thank yourself, Ames," Claire said, a smile creeping into her voice. "You keep me in the office running like clockwork, and you even got me to buy high heels for this pitch. There might be a raise in it for you, if you burn all those rock t-shirts." "As if," Amy snorted, her voice far away. And then she began to snore. Her Miss Porter had been right, Claire knew. All the numbers and promises in the world wouldn't help if she couldn't capture Senator Newell's imagination. Still, she wasn't sure about all the outfits Amy had forced her to get. There were some daring colors in there, and more daring hemlines. If only her father could see her now, Claire thought. Thinking of Dad still made her a little sad, but she knew he'd be proud of his little girl, despite Amy's plan of employing streamlined femininity to save the day. Okay, she'd push it a little. Yes, appearances mattered, more than she liked to admit, which was odd considering what she did for a living. But the work was what was most important. She went over her pitch again, determined that however she dressed, wherever the senator's eye might roam, when she made her case, she'd win his mind. Miami always struck Tom as a dirty city, with a better reputation than it deserved, and nowhere more so than the downtown core. He was following Senator George Newell and his entourage for the second night in a row from the Greater Miami Convention Center down Brickell towards the Sheraton Biscayne Bay, a 4-star hotel paid for by the taxpayers back home in Chicago. Senator Newell, a ruddy-faced, white-haired man with a snake-oil smile, had gone very native. His rotund white belly stuck out between a garish yellow shirt and white cotton pants. He even wore canvas boat shoes, without socks, Miami Vice style. Tom shifted a toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other and let his eyes rove the unique architecture and color schemes of Miami, half a block behind George, his buddies, and 2 black-suited security men. He'd had a pork sandwich for dinner while he watched George consume 3 mojitos with a gaggle of other half-soused public servants. It was a good sandwich, too. Pork sandwiches never tasted right anywhere but Miami, and Tom had taken his time. He seldom got to eat so well, waiting for his chance to give Eldon's red pen a workout. Now he watched George and a smaller group saying their goodbyes in the twilight, each heading to their respective watering holes for the night, or strip clubs, or brothels. It was a convention, after all. If Newell was as predictable as Tom thought he was, he'd make his way through Brickell Park to the water's edge, and indulge in the view, fresh air, and an illegal Cuban cigar, before circling back around to his hotel, or more precisely the Viceroy rooftop bar atop the Biscayne Bay, for a second batch of mojitos with his cronies. The man swayed a little as he waved goodnight to his fellow politicians, then split off from the group. The security men fell in step behind as always, but then, happy surprise to Tom, George waved them off and gestured to his touristy outfit. "No worries, boys," Tom muttered, imagining his target's words. "Look at me, who's going to bother with me?" "Big mistake, George." Tom continued on behind George Newell. In his pocket was a jackknife, the kind with the faux wood grips and 2 blades inside. Same as the one found, wiped clean of fingerprints, beside the body of Jimmy Wiles, a Chi-Town bookie and loan shark. Wiles had blackmailed Newell for favors after George's election to senator, favors that had begun to make reporters curious before his timely death. George had presented the investigating officers an airtight, ridiculously perfect alibi, though in subsequent interviews George had let slip details of the murder scene never released to the public. All the same, political influence had killed the investigation. Tom was glad for that. It left Newell to him, to a more fitting justice than any court would have sentenced a man as powerful as Newell. Tom began to whistle. "Oh, the shark has such white teeth, dear." His emotions, they were always dim, sometimes completely disappeared after Bob and what happened to his family. But his sense of humor was still alive, in there, and kicking. "And he keeps them pearly white," Tom drew on a pair of thin, brown leather gloves and followed George through palm trees, shuddering in a strong Atlantic wind as he made his way toward the water. Tom had done the river walk 3 more times after following his quarry the night before, and he knew just where he would strike. He knew which garbage can he would leave the senator's wallet in, lightened of the thick wad of cash the man traveled with, of course. The cash would be slid into a donation box of a local charity, just like Dale Redding's greenbacks, and the profits of every balancing act Tom had done had gone. He was excited now. He watched George stop at the water's edge to hunch his body against the whistling wind and light his Cohiba Esplendidos. After puffing it to light with obvious pleasure, he continued on his way, his garish attire fading, then glowing, then fading again as he waddled between circles of light thrown by lamp-posts along the walk. Tom was the only other soul on the walk that night, and he walked slowly, carefully matching his pace to ensure he would come within striking distance of the senator between 2 pools of light. He took the jackknife from his pocket. He pushed a blade out slowly to avoid a click when it locked open. He ignored that dirty, excited chuckle Bob made. He ignored the phantom's tip of the hat in the shadows beside him. That goddamn hat that not even this ripping wind could tear from his head. I'm not like you. I'm nothing like you. Go away. This isn't for you. Don't talk to him. You're working. Focus. Busy boy, Tom. Further ahead, the senator disappeared into shadow again, only the glowing red tip of his cigar showing his position. He was close now. Tom and Senator George Newell would meet on the far side of the very next lamppost. Tom savored the blood beating in his ears, the thrill of being this close to his prey, he admitted. He didn't care how that sounded to himself, not in the heat of the hunt. His prey. He was his prey. He forced himself to keep walking slow with the jackknife held close against his thigh. And there was Allie, leaning against that final lamppost, nodding at Tom, her eyes wet, grateful. All was right. All was according to plan. And the coming, balancing, it was so close. He passed across the Terminator into shadow. His eyes adjusted, and the cigar's red glow was gone. Tom forced himself to keep walking as an electric thrill shot up his spine. He felt like crosshairs were painted on him as he sauntered through 2 more lights. Had George caught on? How? Where was that fat old... Tom squinted. There. Almost 100 feet further down the walk than he should have been. George was walking fast, and his waddle was now gone, just like the cigar was now gone. There was new purpose to his walk. Not only new purpose, the entire gait was different. The intention that moved the body was different. Ice poured through Tom's veins. George Newell was not the man he pretended to be. All his planning was useless, his understanding of the target incomplete. It would be dangerous for him to continue now. It would be stupid to try. Tom kept walking all the same. You have been listening to Tools and Means. Title music, Infiltrate This, by Atlas Plug. Used with permission. For show notes, more information, and other fiction by me, John Muro, please visit servingworlds.com. Thank you for listening.